The Mazda MX5 Miata is an awesome car, and there's a ton of cool things to know about them. In this video, I'm going to be going over more than 25 fun facts that you may or may not know about the Mazda MX5 Miata. Before we start to get into them though, let us know down below what year Miata is your favorite, and yes, you can pick them all. To start off these facts, we'll go over a little bit of history on these cars. The Mazda MX5 Miata made its debut in 1989 at the Chicago Auto Show. This is the first time that this car was really unveiled to the world and they got to see it in person. Before it was debuted though, obviously the car had to be developed, and there are actually three different concepts for this car. One of them was a front-wheel drive version of this car, and luckily in 1984 that concept was axed. Thank God this thing ended up rear-wheel drive. Once this fun and affordable rear-wheel drive car hit the market, it sold like crazy. In 2000, it became the most sold two-seater car. And then in 2016, the 1 millionth Miata was produced. That is a lot of Miatas. And over the many years and 1 million plus Miatas, there have been 4 generations. The first one is the NA, followed by the NB, the NC, and finally the ND. During each generation of Miata, there has been a fairly significant update. For the first generation, you had the NA6 and the NA8, where they went from a 1.6 to a 1.8. There's a NB1 and a NB2, which was facelifted and also went from a non-VVT to a VVT head. There's actually a NC1, 2, and 3, where they made engine modifications and also a facelift. And then there's a ND1 and 2, where they slightly updated the car. Miatas are all extremely close to 50-50 weight distribution. This means that these cars handle pretty neutral and they're very easy to learn how to drive fast. This makes them great canyon cars, great autocross cars, great track cars, and overall a great car to learn how to get your performance driving ability up. Because of this great handling, affordable cost, and insane number that have been produced, the Mazda MX-5 is the most raced car in the world. There's a spec Miata class here in the US that's extremely popular, as well as classes for these things all over the world. These are really just awesome cars to go out there, drive to the limit, and have a blast. Part of what makes these cars so great is they're extremely lightweight. Early base models of the NA Miata weighed in at just 21,116 pounds. That is extremely light compared to most things on the road, and that also contributes to its nimble handling and just how fun they are. The heaviest Miata, which is the NC Power Retractable Hardtop, only had a curb weight of 2,542 pounds. To put this into perspective, the Honda S2000 is over 2,700 pounds, and the NC is the one that gets called a boat. Kind of ironic, I'd say. Despite their sporty appearance, Mazda Miatas actually aren't particularly fast. A new Miata will do 0 to 60 in about 5.7 seconds, which really isn't bad, but to put that into perspective, a 22 Honda Odyssey will do about 6.6 seconds. If you look back at the older cars like this one, from the factory, early NAs could only do 0 to 60 in about 8.9 seconds. Yes, older Miatas are significantly slower than new minivans. Pretty crazy, right? The Fiat 124 Spider shares a platform with the ND Miata. This means that things like the chassis, the suspension, and a lot of other components are shared between the two cars. The 124 is known to be a little bit more luxurious and a little bit more comfortable than something like a Miata, but again, they share a ton and that's pretty cool. The ND Mazda Miata is actually shorter than the original NA generation. If you put these things side by side, the ND is a shorter car front to back than the NA, but it's also wider than the NA. It's awesome to see how similar they are even after all those years though. In the movie Cars, the twins Mia and Tia are Miatas. They couldn't have picked a happier, better car for this role to be cheering on other cars. Even though Miatas are primarily convertibles and they're absolutely awesome with the top down, every generation of Miata has had the option to have a hardtop. On the NA and the NB, there's a removable hardtop like what you see here. The NC and the ND were both offered with a power retractable top, and then you could also get removable tops for those cars. Despite most Miatas being convertible in some way, there was an option to get a coupe Miata with a permanent hardtop. This car was offered only in Japan, and there were only 179 units made. These things come up for auction sometimes, and the prices are sky high. The interior door handles of the Miata are actually shared by 90s Aston Martin DB7s. This is pretty crazy to me because the door handle, while it fits this car very well, is not extremely elegant or super nice. Miatas have an absolutely huge aftermarket support network. That means that pretty much anything you want to modify on this car will be available, and you will have tons of options depending on your price point and your performance goals. If you looked at the NA and the NB and you thought they looked pretty similar, well, you're right. The actual car is basically the same, and most parts from the NA and the NB are pretty much interchangeable. If you've made it this far without clicking off the video, I just want to take the time to say thank you. Don't forget to like this video if you're enjoying it, and subscribe for more like this. Now, let's close out this video with a few more fun facts. One part that's actually the same on all Miatas is the door bushings. A lot of people upgrade these because it gives your car a much more solid feel when you close the door, and people also claim that it makes the car a bit stiffer. NA and NB Miatas had timing belts, and these engines are non-interference. This means that if that timing belt breaks, you're not going to have a catastrophic loss of your engine. The same can't be said about the NC and the ND though, so you want to keep up on your maintenance there. While the 1.6 liter was only available for a few years in the US, it made its way into the NB generation in the rest of the world and was widely used. 6-speed transmissions in Miatas actually have a shorter final gear than the 5-speeds. This means that if you put a 6-speed in a car that was previously a 5-speed and don't change the diff, you're actually going to have a lower top speed and a higher cruising RPM than if you kept the 5-speed. The NA and the NB have their batteries in the trunk to help with weight distribution. The NC and the ND, on the other hand, have their batteries in the engine bay, which helps cut down on wiring weight. Getting into the last few facts here, Mazda offered a factory turbocharged version of the Miata. I turbocharged mine, which was not originally turbocharged, but they made a Mazdaspeed Miata in 2004 and 2005, which was turbocharged from the factory. Unfortunately though, a fire at the factory meant that the 2005 production was stopped of the Mazdaspeed. Because of that, only 1,428 units were delivered in the US that year. With all that, I'm going to wrap up this video. Let us know down below how many of these facts you knew. Also, if you know anything else cool about the Miata that I didn't mention, definitely leave them down below in the comments so we could all learn. Don't forget to like this video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and I hope you stick around for the next one.